Business Bites. Go further and grow stronger with InvestNI. Join local businesses generating billions, exporting to Europe. Check your export readiness with InvestNI's free online export health check. Business Bites with InvestNI.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Business Bites from Bauer Media Audio here in Northern Ireland. My name is David Tyder, Managing Director of Bauer Media, and each week we tell a positive story about business in our part of the world. This week's guest, I'm delighted, is Brendan McGurgan. He's the co-founder of Simple Scaling, who are hosting the Scale X Summit, and we're going to find out all about that right now. Brendan, welcome to Business Bites.
Thank you so much for having me on, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you, and we just always like to kick straight into the subject matter. We don't hang about here. So my first question for you is, you're organizing a summit. That sounds massive. How did this idea come around? And then we'll talk about the summit. What sparked it off?
Sure. Let me give you some context. So my background is 20 years immersed in scale-ups. The first scale-up that I was involved with was a technology company, and then I spent 17 years in a local business, which many of your listeners may be familiar with, the CDE Group. So I was the finance director and then CEO for 12 years of that business. And through the course of my time there, we scaled that business from about 3 million revenue to almost 100 million revenue, from 15 people to almost 700 people, located across 6 different continents, and we exported to more than 100 countries. Now, I went in there in my 20s, left in my 40s. I thought everyone was doing this, and as it turns out, I retired from the business in 2019 and began researching scale-ups, all things scale-ups, and really wanted to provide, along with my co-author Claire, my wonderful business partner Claire Colvin, a how-to guide on scaling up. It's something I never had. As a CEO of a scale-up company, I was invited to be the CEO, and none of us go to CEO scaling school. And I really wanted to give people that roadmap, that guide to scaling that is being informed by our vision to inspire, connect, and enable millions of ambitious leaders of small and medium-sized enterprises to scale with purpose. Now, why is this important? There are 5.7 million small and medium-sized enterprises in the UK. Those 5.7 million are contributing £2 trillion worth of revenue to the UK economy. And half of that £1 trillion is coming from less than 34,000 companies, 0.6%, who are positively, disproportionately contributing half of that. And those are the scale-ups. Now, if we can turn the dial on that by a mere 1%, we have the potential in the next 10 years to increase net jobs by 150,000, but to increase GDP by 225 billion. So this is what gets me up in the morning. This is what inspires everything we do, our book, the podcast, our program. And the summit specifically has origins in the fact that through our research, we discovered that lack of ambition is the single greatest impediment as to why companies don't scale. So what is lack of ambition? Well, on one hand, you've got ignorance, the lack of know-how. On the other hand, some unchallenged limiting beliefs. What we wanted to do was create an environment bringing together 500 business leaders from across Ireland and the UK to come together to immerse themselves, to marinate in inspiring content from some of the world's greatest authorities in all things scaling. So that's the rationale.
Absolutely fantastic in your ambition. You're not a shrinking violet. We can definitely tell from that answer. So let's just talk about this event, because you are bringing together, as you said, not only hundreds of business people, but some of the biggest names that people would have heard about. So how on earth did you even get to that point? I mean, would you not start off down the local hall, but you've kind of gone big or gone home? Is that the way it's worked?
It is, and in many respects, we're walking our own talk. So we host a 12-month Scale X Accelerator program to support business leaders in scaling their business. And a significant part or component of that is actually encouraging and motivating leaders to create a vision for the future. And that's a vision that whilst is realizable, is hugely challenging. So for us, there's no sense trying to do something down in the local hall. It not no sense, but it doesn't align with the ambition that we're encouraging those leaders who come into our community to uphold. So really, we wanted to do something that has never been done in Ireland before in terms of a summit focused exclusively on business scaling. I've had the privilege of interviewing some of the brightest and best brains on the planet on all things scaling over the last couple of years, and leveraging that network, we have been able to bring together a world-class lineup of guests and bringing them to this island, some for the first time. So delighted to be able to do that. We really want to put Northern Ireland on the map as the destination for SMEs who aspire to scale, and the summit is really a catalyst for that.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about some of these people. You've got entrepreneurs, networkers, you've got high performance people, you've got TV stars. What, give us some of the highlights. Come on, whet the appetite.
Well, a lot of people will know the wonderful, ridiculously accomplished Stephen Bartlett, host of the very famous Diary of a CEO podcast, a multiple times award-winning author. His latest book, The 33 Laws, incredible book. He's the youngest investor on Dragon's Den ever, has significant scaling experience personally. So I'm getting the opportunity to interview Stephen live and really get into some of the tactics that have undergirded his success and some of the principles that he lives by in terms of achieving the success in all realms. Everything he touches seems to turn to gold. So really want to dive deep into that. We've Professor Damien Hughes, an incredible individual, author of 6-7 books at this stage, has worked with Alex Ferguson at Man United, with Barcelona. This guy knows a thing about high performing teams and high performing cultures. Again, he's the co-host of the High Performance podcast. Nick Bradley, who has experienced and led over $5 billion worth of exits, more than 130 exits at this stage. So for many in the audience, they'll not only be thinking of scaling up, but at some point they'll be thinking of exiting at the highest value that they can get. So Nick's going to speak to that. Margot Hoek, who's a Global Thinkers 50 a recipient. She's an authority in all things sustainability. Dr. Oleg Konovalov, the Da Vinci of visionary leadership. So, I mean, this is a world-class lineup. We've Jack Daly coming from the US. Jack is an incredible individual. I interviewed him on season 7 of the podcast, and he's electric. This guy has managed sales teams with 2,500 people in them. So he knows a thing or two about hyper sales growth, which is the lifeblood of any scaling business. So delighted to be able to host these people in Belfast.
That's absolutely amazing, and I think everyone should be clapping the effort that you've put in, you and the team that have put in to get this event together on the 15th of November at the ICC, as I understand. Let's just scale it back, to use that word. I'm a young entrepreneur with a great idea. I'm sitting here watching this. I'm hearing lots of big names, and I'm thinking, I've got this little idea. I don't think this is in the same ballpark. Could I ever get to that kind of height? What would you say to that young person who's sitting there thinking, is this beyond me? Am I in this league? Could I do this? Could I take a business idea and get it to a level that we're talking about? What advice would you give?
Well, I would say every single person in that audience, every person we'll bring on stage, started with one customer. Prior to the one customer, they started with a thought. They acted on that thought. They created a product or service. They engaged with one customer. That one customer became 3 customers. 3 became 30. 30 became 300. Everyone starts with a thought. The difference between those who are successful and those who are not, it's very much the start that stops most people. Have the courage to act on that thought and get yourself in a room where you're going to be inspired to actually action on that thought. And I would say inspiration is perishable, so you must act on it. And if you're thinking now, if you're sitting there and you're listening to this and you've got an idea, understand that 99% of the people that you will speak to, given the statistics, will tell you that you are mad. So you've got to get yourself into a room with the 1% where your idea is very normal.
That's worldly advice, and I would imagine that through the people that you've spoken to and the businesses you've been involved with, that you've seen that in action.
Community is everything, David. The people who you network with. You know, I'm a big fan of the Jim Rohn quote: "You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." I have filtered out my network, so I only have radiators. I have those who bring great energy. I have filtered out all the drains. I listen to content that's going to nourish me in terms of the ideas. So you know, in terms of the summit and the boldness, we don't think it's bold because we're looking at other events that are staged in London, staged in New York, staged in, you know, in San Francisco. You know, this is in comparison is just another summit. So when you put yourself in that mindset, then ultimately these things feel very, very normal. And something you mentioned earlier on, this is not, this is not me. We have an incredible team. You know, I'm going to call out Niamh Donnelly, who's just been incredible. Claire Patterson on the marketing side, my business partner, Claire Colvin. You know, this is a team effort, and the team have been immense in this.
Yeah, sounds absolutely fantastic. So, listen, we're nearly at the end of this conversation. It tends to go so quick. I suppose your ultimate hope for this conference. So once it's done, what would you like people to be walking out of that hall thinking and saying and doing? What is that thought?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a question we asked ourselves right at the outset. What does great look like at 5:30 on the evening of the 15th of November? And it's that we have 500 business leaders walking out of the ICC feeling compelled to take the next step, feeling compelled to take action, feeling compelled, and in fact, feeling that they're going to do themselves, their teams, their organization, the community, the industry that they operate in, a disservice if they don't act, if they don't take the action to scale.
I think you've summed it right up there. It sounds like a very, very admirable aim to have. And I hope, and you and your team, I wish you all the success for this event. It is the Scale X Summit presented by the team from Simple Scaling at the ICC in Belfast, Wednesday, the 15th of November. That's not far away now. Tickets available on the website, tickets
are available on scalexsummit.com. I would encourage people to, if they're keen to go, to jump on that. There is literally a handful of tickets left. So by the time this airs, I'm not sure if they'll still be available, but I know we're giving away a couple of tickets as a result of the show this evening. But I would encourage people to jump onto that as soon as possible.
Yep, absolutely. So get onto that website. And also, as you just mentioned there, we do have, and this is serious value to these tickets. When you think of the people that you are going to be sitting and watching and listening to, and maybe even speaking to, I'm sure there's a Q&A session in there somewhere. These tickets have serious value, and we will be giving a pair away in the Bauer Media Audio LinkedIn page. So make sure you log into that. Follow that and check the details on how you can get a pair of tickets to this very, very exclusive event, Wednesday the 15th of November, ICC Belfast ScaleX Summit. Brendan and the team, more power to you. And let's bring on this one and the next one and many more of them. Thanks for being our guest.
Brilliant, David. Look, thanks so much for having me on. Take care.
My pleasure.
Business Bites. Go further and grow stronger with InvestNI. Join local businesses generating billions, exporting to Europe. Check your export readiness with InvestNI's free online export health check. Business Bites with InvestNI.